A quick note before we begin. This podcast dives into real, often raw conversations about life's most profound moments, from a labor's beginning to life's end and all the complexity in between. Some stories may be emotionally challenging or deeply moving. Please listen with care and know that you are not alone. Welcome to the Mamatoosa podcast. I'm your host, Atoosa Benji. Welcome to the Mamatoosa podcast. My name is Atoosa Benji, and I am your host. And today I am so excited to have my guest, Pessa, on the show. It actually happened quite organically. I don't say anything happens by accident or by coincidence because I don't believe things happen by accident or by coincidence. But I was sitting next to Pessa at the nail salon, and some of the most interesting conversations are actually at the nail salon for me. I just strike up my husband says I strike up conversation with anybody, anywhere, but especially at the nail salon. Like, you're either waiting to get helped, or you're waiting for your nails to dry, or you're talking to the person next to you about what color you should get. It's very important things happen at the nail salon. So welcome, Pessa.
Tell
me a little bit about yourself before I start grilling you about a million things. Take it away. Welcome.
Thank you. It's such a joy to be here with Atoosa. How did we get to talking about birth? Got placed near each other at the nail salon. And we do know each other for a little bit. So that was always a joy. And I'm trying to think how you must have just delivered. You said something about a birth that you might have just had. And then, and I mentioned like, oh, well, like I had that, and which doctor I went to, and how I, like, kind of my story of my births, and you were like, whoa, no way. So we kind of got talking, and it was before you started this.
Yeah, it was way before I had you.
You're like, I'm pinning you when we get back to this.
Yeah, I have a few running notes on my phone and my iPad on potential future podcast guests, and you're one of like the top 3 at the very, very beginning before we even launched.
Right.
So I'm so happy to have it, for you to come and to make it happen. Tell me about your birth journeys.
Okay, so I am one of 10 kids, and my mother had pretty easy births, I would say. Her last one was probably the hardest, but the hardest being her total labor was 5 hours.
Wow. But
he was 11 pounds, and she had a little shoulder dystocia a little at the end, but he came out naturally, thank God. She never had epidural. Everything seemed pretty, so in my head, pretty chill. So in my head, I'm like, oh, birth is easy. I do have one of my sisters that has C-sections because of her first being an emergency, and the doctor she was at kind of followed through with that. Right. So when I was pregnant with my first, I was living in New York, and I didn't think, I thought obviously I'm going to have a natural birth. It didn't cross my mind. I did go to midwives, the Parkside midwives. I was living in Brooklyn, and it was a pretty uneventful pregnancy. Like, everything went smooth. I was pretty well. The baby always looked good, thank God. And I went into labor 2.5 weeks early, and I came into the hospital, and they're like, oh, you're only 2 centimeters. We're sending you home. It's your first. You could be forever, kind of thing. And I'm like, no. It was my first, so I did feel like I had labored all night. I'd done it all. And when they told me I was 2 centimeters, I was so let down. I was just
defeated.
I'm like, no. I felt like I was like, I already gave birth. And then they had to do a quick vital check on me before they sent me. And they're like, oh, you have high blood pressure. We need to keep you. So they kept me. And I labored for another few hours, and they checked me. They're like, there's no head. They tell me, one of the nurses checking me, in between. And I didn't even think breech. I was so
There's no head.
Yeah, they just tell me there's no head. We're going to get a doctor to come in right away. We need to do a sonogram on the spot. And they just start rushing and whatever. And I was just I was so uneducated actually in any of anything in birth. I just thought I would come and have a baby, no big deal.
Right.
And my mother wasn't with me then because she was in Australia and I was in New York. But I was on the phone back and forth with her. She was she's the one who told me, go to the hospital already. You can't just stay home all night or whatever. And they're like, your baby's breached. You have to go in for a C-section right away. So they rushed me and they said, you're going in for a C-section. And I just broke down. I burst out crying. I was so terrified of even an epidural because I have a good friend's mom that had an epidural and was like paralyzed from her butt. I know it's super rare, so not to scare people, but as like not having kids yet, I was just like, I'll go through any pain. I'm not going to have that epidural. So
did she recover?
It took a few years and tons of meds, and yeah, she is okay now.
It.
Yeah,
Wow.
they were able to, but it was a long journey
Wow.
for her, and I think she's like a different person today.
Wow. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So I was just like, I'm not even taking that
Not
risk.
me.
I'll go through any pain under the sun, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just like crying, and I was so scared to even go to the operating room. And then there was actually a doula in the hospital that's from the Crown Heights community that my husband saw, and she saw me sobbing, and she was like, she's like, do you want me to go in with your wife? She was there for someone else. Aww. But that lady was like very early on, and she was going to be a while. So she's like, do you want me to go in with your wife?
Aww.
And Morty looked at me. I'm like, yeah. Like, I was just like, I had no idea I was just like, yeah. So she came in with me, which was amazing. And I had a C-section on the spot. Like, they did a spinal, like, they just,
yeah.
And I had a C-section because he was breached. I think he was footling breached. So I don't know, being anywhere else for your first birth would have made a difference. They didn't know that in advance either, so I don't know. Like,
right? Oh my gosh,
there's so many
So typically, the method of the interview is we interview you, tell me your story, and then I interject with some long, drawn out explanation of the process, which I will do as we move further along. Okay. But just with regards to breech. A breech baby who is a baby who's not head down. So a baby who is head down is called vertex.
Right.
A baby who is butt down is called breech. Now, you can have a baby who's a footling breech.
Right. So that was my birth.
The foot is actually the closest part presenting to the cervix, which is not a great candidate for a vaginal birth.
So I actually did that in my last birth.
You gave birth to
a footling breech.
To a footling breech.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is why she's here, friends.
Yeah.
And then you have the frank breech, which means that the baby's legs are pointed, piked up towards their face, and they come down with their butt.
Yeah.
So you had your first baby via C-section.
Yes.
Not what you had chosen at all.
No.
Not informed about other options.
No, and I think because it was such a shock to me, it took me a long time to get over it. Like, for like at least 6 months, I didn't feel like myself again. Wow. And like, it was... Fast forward, I had my second child in Los Angeles. I had moved here, pregnant with my second. And at the time I had moved here, I wanted a VBAC, of course.
Yeah.
I think it was like at the time when insurance was like, if you were pregnant, you're a pre-existing condition. I couldn't get anything but Medi-Cal at the time.
Lovely.
So someone told me the UCLA midwives go to them. So I'm like, okay.
And listeners, VBAC is vaginal birth after cesarean section. So your first trial of labor before you actually have a VBAC is called a TOLAC. So it's called a trial of labor after cesarean. And that is, let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. Right. Once you are holding your baby and you've had a successful vaginal delivery, that means you've VBAC'd. So you are now seeking VBAC options.
Yeah. So, and the UCLA, all the midwives were really lovely and everything kind of went smoothly. But I did tell them when I was probably around 30 weeks, I said my last pregnancy, they had no idea that my son, they always thought he was head down.
Wow.
I said, I don't want to have sonograms, but I really feel like I need you to check the position because they had no idea. It was a complete shock to them.
Right.
So they're like, feel me. And they're like, oh no, I'm like, no, you need to check. So I had to go into UCLA and they checked every single time she was still breached. So I did go on a journey to, like, I think I did everything under the sun to turn her.
What did you do?
Okay, I went to Dr. Berlin. I did, like, 6 or 7 of those, like, pelvic massages that are pretty torturous.
Oh, yeah.
So
Dr. Berlin's going to be a guest shortly on the show.
So he was wonderful. And my friend had gone to him and had success with turning her babies, so she had referred me to him.
He's a local chiropractor in the Los Angeles area who does perinatal care.
So I went to him, and then he also has an acupuncturist in his office that he suggested to me.
Yes.
So I did a number of sessions with him, and then he also gave me these moxa sticks to burn by my toes. I think my sister did it for like 10 nights in a row.
Yeah.
I did headstands. I did hot and cold packs. I did radio wave. I mean,
you did it all.
I looked up the list. Anything they said
Talk to the baby.
Yeah. I even called this doctor. It was actually interesting. I called this doctor, like a remote healer from New York. And he would do all this stuff over the phone, and like everything he said, like kind of happened was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
To turn the baby, because my friend also told me she knows someone that went in and he turned the baby. And then Dr. Berlin told me, you're 30, like you should do a version.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. I booked it at UCLA.
Let's pause right there. So a version is a short term for an external cephalic version, which is a procedure in which the client is brought in either to the hospital, typically in a hospital setting it's done, and is given an injection to soften the muscles of the uterus. And then with their hands, the obstetrician turns the baby manually from a butt down position into a head down position. Now, what do you think the odds of success are with something like that?
So I don't know the actual stats.
50-50. It's literally 50-50. So it's always this back and forth, especially in the midwife world where we're really thinking about the baby's journey in the womb. What is the reason that this baby is breech?
Right.
Is it a short cord? Is the pelvis a certain shape that makes it that way? What is happening in that internal environment that we can't see? And now we're sort of messing with because we need it done a certain way. What if I were to tell you that about 3 to 4% of babies are breech at term? And term means 37 weeks.
Right.
So anytime you have a baby between 37 and 42 weeks is typically pretty normal. 37 is considered term. 42 is considered post dates. But somewhere in that 5 weeks is pretty common to have a baby. By 32 weeks, we would like babies to be head down because, we present them with a manual. They should be reading the manual, doing the homework, and starting to figure out how to come down. Some babies skip the manual or they read the manual and they're like, yeah, but I can't. I physically can't. This cord's around my wrist or the cord's around my neck or the habitus of this womb is that such that I can't come head down. Right. So we go to do an external cephalic version and it's super successful. And then within a few minutes, boom.
They flip back.
The baby flips back.
Right. So I've seen that.
So the reason it's done in a hospital is that once in a while, you relax the mom's uterus and you turn the baby and then the heart rate crashes.
Right.
Because what's going on with the cord, right? We can't really see it very well. It's tied around.
Yeah.
So that's why it's good to have an OR close by so that we can do whatever measures need to be done. And a lot of moms say that it was kind of, it was a little painful. It was a little uncomfortable. The medication they give kind of makes your heart race. So it's not for everybody, but I've seen it work very successfully. And I've actually seen it not work also or work for a few days and then have the baby flip back. So what happened with your external cephalic version?
So actually I booked it. And then the night before I had an appointment with this, remote healer in New York.
Yeah.
And he does the whole thing and he tells me, Pessa, don't do the version. If the baby's going to turn, it's going to turn naturally.
Wow.
So I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, Dr. Berlin's like, if you were my wife, I would do it. And then I was like, he's telling me not to. And my gut just told me, don't do it. Mm-hmm. So I called up and canceled.
Intuition.
And I didn't do it. And then my last appointment before I gave birth, I saw the midwife, Anne Trudell. I don't know if you're familiar. Yeah. So she tells me, Pessa, your baby's still breech. Your only hope is this Dr. Paul Crane.
Yeah. And hi, Han, if you're listening. She's one of my old school mentors.
Okay. So she was so wonderful. And she told me, she's like, it was like a Thursday. She's like, go make yourself an appointment with him. Just get his opinion. Yeah. See, I know you're due in like a week and a half or whatever. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I made an appointment. This was Thursday afternoon. I made an appointment. They said they'll get me in Monday morning.
Dr. Paul Crane is in Beverly Hills, y'all. So if you want to look him up, Crane, Crane. He's going to blow up his phone's going to blow up after this podcast, and he's getting close to retirement. So we'll see. I'm so grateful he's still here.
He's
amazing.
Yes. So I had an appointment for Monday and I was due Friday. So that week. Anyway, in the meantime, I went into labor Friday night. So I didn't get to that appointment. Yeah. And I went to the hospital with my husband and my sister. And I went I kind of knew I was going to have a C-section, but because I was like mentally prepared, it was not as like intense for me. Yeah. And it was actually such a miracle when they did this. They took out my baby. They're like, it's a girl. And her quarter was around her neck 5 times. Wow. So I didn't know that right away. My sister was just smiling because she was like, "Don't want to freak me out. You can't see when you're lying there on the operating table." And I'm like, "Why isn't the baby crying?" And my sister says, "Oh, she's great. She's great." And they're like working like this and like suctioning and like kind of getting her. She was like blue and they got her to cry and she was fine. They did take her to the NICU for a few hours just to be sure. And she was fine. Thank God. She was my smallest baby.
The healer saw that.
Yeah. And I actually right away, I was like, I knew that they don't see the cord when they do the version, and I was like, I just would have ran myself into a C-section, or I don't know what could have happened. So that was just,
wow.
Yeah, that was like, to me, but that was like a second C-section.
Wow.
So at that point, after my 6-week checkup, and I think Anne told me, she's like, go get an opinion from Dr. Crane for next time.
Yeah.
So I did. I think when my baby was a few months old, I went to him. He did like an internal and external like sonogram. He checked me out, and he told me like he thought it was maybe just a fluke that I had 2 breech babies. That everything looked good. He's like, your uterus looks normal. Everything looks good.
Yeah.
Wait whatever amount of time between like babies and come to me next time. If everything lines up, I'll definitely give you a go.
Right. Spoiler alert, right?
Yeah. So I was
Not a
like,
fluke.
okay. Right. So, well, I came to him the next time, and my baby was head down, and for every single appointment, actually. And everything God made it. I just said to myself, I have to go to him. Like, I need to do everything I can
Right.
to try for a natural birth.
Yeah.
If I'm meant to have another C-section, then so be it. But, like, at least I know I tried.
Right. Right. And thank God you come from
yeah.
a big family and you want a big family. So
Yeah.
you're exploring all the options that are going to be
Yeah.
the least interventionist. Because the more C-sections you have, the higher your risk is going every time.
Right. And I don't even know if I could fathom having, like, getting pregnant knowing that I'm 100% having it. Like, that was, like, in my head, it was just, like, so major.
Yeah.
Like that. Like, the surgery.
That was your why.
Yeah, that was I was like, I don't know. I actually said, I'm like, if this is a third, like, if I ever end up, like, I mean, I know it's God if I end up with one, but I don't know how many times I could do this kind of thing. I mean, I know also there's a limit to your body, but besides for that, but I did, everything lined up. I went into labor probably a week early, and my waters broke actually for the first, like, early. And when I came in to meet Dr. Crane in the hospital, it was probably like 3 a.m. I was only like 1 centimeter. So I was like, oh my God, like, what's going to happen? Like, is he going to let me go? And he's the calmest person on the planet. He says, even though your water broke, don't worry. You have all day. There's no rush. Relax. He's like, I might need you to get an epidural within a few hours, because in case of an emergency, but you're good. Like,
so this is with the Tolac.
Yeah. So he let me, he was like, and the nurses also kind of feed off of him because they will listen to whatever he says.
Yeah.
So it's the most calming, like...
The provider sets the tone.
Yes.
In the room.
And he was so positive the entire time. And in the beginning, I went very slow. Like, I labored probably for another 5 hours without an epidural. And then they came in and they're like, do you want me just to give it to you now? Dr. Crane wants you to have it, like, soon anyway, just in case.
Right. And the just in case, listeners, is because if someone is scheduled to have a VBAC, then many doctors would either like the client to have an epidural or at least have the epidural catheter placed in their back should there be a need to do a C-section and there is no time to do the epidural, because the epidural procedure takes 15-20 minutes and then it can take time for the medication to also set in. Sometimes you can do a spinal, which is a very fast acting numbing that goes into a slightly different place in the spine than the epidural was. But essentially, doctors want to feel safe that if a C-section needs to happen fast, they're not wasting time numbing the client.
It's a smoother transition.
Correct.
So that was his idea. I probably it was like a Friday, and I think I like slept on and off just watching the monitor on the epidural. And I remember Dr. and be like, I like went from 3 to 4, like very slow. At like 1 o'clock in the day, this from like 2 or 3 in the morning, I was probably like 5 or 6 centimeters, and he told my husband and he's like, she's probably not going to go till later tonight or even in the morning. Like, he's like, I'm not rushing her. Don't worry. If any of you want to come and go, like, she's fine. She's like, don't worry.
Yeah.
So like my sister came and went, and she came back and my husband went. Like, I was there all day, and all of a sudden I think I gave birth at like 4 o'clock that day. From like 6 to 10 was like way faster.
Yeah.
And it was pretty fast pushing as well, like probably 10 to 15 minutes. Like.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty
amazing. And that was
my first
delivery?
exactly.
Yes, so
and he was head down. That was I VBAC'd and he was head down, and it was
ecstatic.
Yeah, you couldn't compare. My next birth was exactly 2 years later, my next son, and it was pretty crazy. Dr. Crane had called me, and he said on Saturday night, and he said I wasn't due for 2 weeks, and he had to go out of town emergency for 24 hours. But he's like, you're one of my only clients that actually need me there, because I was in him maybe on Thursday or Friday, and my baby was breech in a good breech position.
Right.
He's like, but I'm sure you'll be fine. I'll be back Sunday night. Or maybe I was going on Monday morning. He's like, don't worry about it. As soon as my body heard that, psychologically, I probably went into labor. Well, actually, Sunday it was fine. We went out with my other kid, whatever. And Sunday afternoon, like, I feel myself like cramping and going to labor. I'm like, no. Like, Dr. Crane's got to be here. Like, hold out.
Yeah.
And in my head, I thought, like, my last birth took from 2 a.m. till like 4. I'm like, oh, I have all night. He'll be back.
Yeah.
Anyway, it went so fast. And we called his partner, and he's like, yeah, come in. I'm going to give you, it's a doctor that works in his office. Come in, I'll give you a C-section.
Right.
And I'm like, absolutely not.
Because this is now your second vaginal birth. So we always joke amongst us as midwives that second babies are the fastest ones.
Right.
That if we could take only second babies in our careers, we could take much more people per month, because second babies tend to just go fast. So even though it was your fourth baby, it was actually your second vaginal birth. 100%. So your body was like, yo, I've done this. Let's get this baby out.
I mean, from beginning of labor till I gave birth was 4 hours.
Wow.
And like, it was probably only the last hour and a half that was like intense. Yeah, the first 2 hours was very
classic second.
Yeah, so I said to my husband, I'm like, there's no way I'm going in. I was just at Dr. Crane a few days ago.
Yeah,
the baby looked perfect, in a great position. He's ready to deliver this. I'm not, like, that's crazy.
Freaking out, yeah.
So then we have another friend that's like an OB at Cedars, so we called him, and he's like, you got to go in. He's like, you can't just stay home. But I was like, but I don't want to go in to have a C-section when I could easily have a natural birth.
Right.
He's like, go in. I'm going to call the head nurse. We'll see what you got to get checked. Let's assess where you're at.
Yeah.
You may be really early and the Dr. Crane will be here. You may be really far along and you just have to do whatever you have to do.
Right.
So I came in. I didn't believe that I would be 10 centimeters when I came in, because of my first birth was like, I labored all night and I was 2. My natural birth, I was 1 when I came in.
Right.
So I couldn't even sit on the wheelchair. Like, he was literally coming out of me.
That is your telltale sign that your baby is coming.
Yeah. But I psychologically didn't, I psyched myself that I wasn't 10.
Of course.
So
there's like a baby in your crotch and you can't sit down.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not sitting there like,
Yep.
So I came in, and then my best friend was with me and my husband, and I came in and they bring me in, and the head nurse was so sweet. She came and checked me, and she says, I hear they're talking and they're like not sure what to do. And they're like, one of the nurses comes to me, they're like, we're going to push your baby in and we're going to give you a C-section. And my friend looks at me and I'm like, it's not happening. So my friend, she's like, just push. And I pushed, and my waters broke everywhere, and he flew out of me. Breached. They went crazy. They coded red, like blue, and like panicked. My husband was like, what's going on? Doctors, like all the doctors actually wouldn't get near me because they didn't want to be responsible for a breech delivery. And a resident caught my baby.
Wow.
She was thrilled. She was like, oh my God, this is so good for my CV. And like, so that was like, and I can't describe, like, after having that birth, I told my husband, I'm like, I feel so good. I could walk home. Like, I didn't have any, like, no epidural, nothing. Like, I could jump up.
Right.
That it was just such a game changer. I was shocked. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, so quick. And like, so that was, and Dr. Crane missed it. He was so upset. He was like, I barely get this opportunity.
But if you're going to miss one, that was a good one to miss, right?
Yeah. So I told him, I said, don't worry. I said, as long as the results were the way we were, I don't care. Like, I'm happy.
Wow.
So, yeah. So he missed that. He came the next morning because he was back and checked on
you. And you all know, my listeners, my pet peeve is someone telling a woman at 10 centimeters not to push without an epidural.
Because you can feel it. It's not a choice.
It's absolutely, it's like a 24-wheeler going through your body and telling it to brake.
Right. Like slow down.
It's not going to happen. It's not happening.
Yeah. So that was my second VBAC.
Wow.
And then my next birth was exactly 3 years later.
Wow. So you're a 2 VBAC, 2C is what we would call you at this point. Okay.
But all my kids were all pretty small as well.
Little ones.
And early. Mm-hmm. My next one actually came on my due date. I felt like I was overdue, because my other ones were like 2. Like, it was, she came in so much. She was
so interesting. It's almost like your body knows you have a tendency for breech babies, and so they come early, so they're smaller.
Exactly. They're all being, So my next one was born, she has the same birthday as my son. They're born exactly 3 years. They're born on the same day, same birthday.
Nice.
And she also was really fast. And Dr. Crane was here for it, but I guess lived closer to the hospital than him. I came in and I'm like, is Dr. I already called him. He told me to meet him there. And they're like, don't worry. Like another doctor that was there, she's like, I'm an OB, don't worry. If you need to push, like Dr. Crane's on his way. You're good. Like you're in good hands. Don't worry. I'm like thinking to myself, she has no idea my baby's breech, but I am pushing because like this baby is coming.
Because if I tell them, then they're
she might panic. And I pushed, and I think my daughter was actually sitting on her foot. Like she was, so she sees like a foot, and I push, and she looks at me, she's like, you need to really push now, like really get this baby out. And she did. Everything came out. Like she just flew out. Like after that, the next push, she was just out. And Dr. Crane walked in like a second later, like almost at the same time.
Wow.
So yeah.
And nowhere on your chart did it say that your baby is breech?
I don't know how it works. I don't know.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Crane knew.
Well, Dr. Crane knew.
And he was so she came like also crashing out like fast. Those two were like my quickest.
Third vaginal birth.
Yeah.
Breached.
Yeah. And then Dr. Crane was like, I don't think it's a fluke anymore.
Or it's not a fluke anymore, y'all.
You're like a breech girl.
No, yes.
Like, I've only had one head down, which was the entryway to have a natural birth. Yeah, thank God.
That's what had to happen.
But, yeah. Otherwise, I don't know how, if anyone,
you would be a candidate.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a candidate. And then my last birth was during COVID. So that was... I was a little nervous before because it was like all the rules at Cedars and
dark times.
Yeah, it was really changing every day as well. And then you can't bring someone with you. You can just one person. So either it's going to be you pick your husband or your like my sister or my friend. Like it was like that.
Rock in a hard place.
Yeah. So she's born in July. So it's like the kind of. And at the time, I remember Dr. Crane being like, "They're going to test you when you get in." He's like, well, you're not going to get the results, so you get home for COVID. And then then they're going to try to keep you there as quick as possible. Yeah. But I will say, once that birth, it was actually pleasantly so great. Yeah. Like, I was nervous, like, coming in, like, how's it going to be? They're going to be, and then I also thought, like, they also said, like, oh, whoever comes with you, once they leave, they can't come back.
Right.
So I was like, well, I have other kids. What's going to happen? Like,
so much uncertainty.
Yeah. So I was like, how's my husband going to be? Yeah. Stress. So, but when I came in, I was also pretty far along already, and Dr. Crane met me there, and he's like telling the nurses like she's gonna be quick. Like the last two just flew out. Like so then he checked me. I was like 9.5 centimeters, and he felt like I was just gonna go. But then he checked, and my baby's feet were down. So this was like a footling breech.
Footling breech, which is not a candidate for vaginal.
So he didn't know what to do. He's like he didn't stressed me out at the time, but he told me after he was like, he knew I don't even want to get an epidural, and that I was gonna labor and like
her baby.
Yeah. So he's like, you know what? Let's wait till you're for sure, like at least 10 centimeters. You could labor for a little longer. So I think I labored for like another hour and a half.
He's so collected.
So, and he did take out like a few like things just in case. My husband's like, what is that? Like there was like 3, like, I don't know how this is going to pan out. And then he wasn't sure if he should send me for a C-section. He didn't tell me. He's like, you just labor. You could get up, walk around, do squats. He was so chill. And the nurses were also like so wonderful. I think because they knew that you could only bring one person with you. And they were just, I mean, they feed off Dr. Crane as well, but I feel bad I don't remember their names, but they were both nurses that were there were so lovely and so kind and just so supportive.
Love.
Let me do like anything.
It's a team.
And they were all like, you don't need to wear a mask. We're covered up for that reason. You're like, do whatever. I thought they were going to make me. I'm like, I can't breathe in there. There's not enough question.
No, it's inhumane to make a pregnant person do
that.
that.
So they were all like so nice about it.
Yeah.
And then I labored probably for another hour and a half. And then he checked me and he actually called his midwife in to assist. He's like, do you mind if I call other people? I'm like, I don't care. Yeah. Do whatever. He had his midwife pushing on my stomach. I really felt the difference of having the feet down first as opposed to the butt.
Yeah.
Because the weight is not there.
Yeah, there's no pressure on the cervix.
So he had me pushing, and I mean, it was probably only 6-7 minutes of pushing, but it was definitely harder pushing than my last two that just flew out of me.
Yeah, yeah, because there's something. So the receptors at the bottom of the uterus are actually designed that when they get pressure, they're pressure receptors. They send a signal to your brain to send more oxytocin to create more contractions.
Oh, wow.
So it becomes like this positive feedback loop. More pressure, more oxytocin, more pressure, more oxytocin. Right. When you don't have that, your uterus has to work double.
Right. So I feel like I probably burst like a bunch of blood vessels trying to my hardest just to get this baby out. Like he kind of, and the nurses were also like helping, like everyone just like, but it was like probably 6 or 7 months, but she came out like naturally.
Yeah.
And then he told me after, like once I had the baby and everything come, he's like, I know you didn't want a C-section, but I really wasn't sure what to do for a while. That's why I wanted you to like labor for longer, because I know you're quick and whatever. But
yeah, and he thinks about it.
He had to think about it,
like
but
he leaves and he ponders.
He did.
And he comes
but
back.
he didn't tell me, like he didn't. He's never stressed me out ever, which is like to me, I'm like that's because I have been at some of my sister's births. One of my younger sister's births where the doctor she was using was her first, and she kind of like paused at 9 centimeters for like 5 hours. And I'm like, what do you mean you're going to go from 9 to 10? Like, I'm like, just hold that. Like, she was being amazing. Yeah, right. I realized that after this one. And he was so, like, they use all the protocol and they just weren't having it, that she wanted to have a natural birth. Right. And they said, she's too petite. We need to cut you. They pulled out everything. And then when the doctor actually didn't show up until she was like, after being in the hospital for already like 13 hours, I think. Mm-hmm. And the first appearance he made, he just came in yelling. And I was so shocked because I was used to Dr. Crane for myself. And I was just like, I can't believe a doctor would be.
Dr. Crane is a sparkly unicorn. There's really not.
Yeah. And you see that even when he walks into the hospital. Like,
he's
like
very beloved.
Yeah. People feel it.
Absolutely. And he's very experienced. And he's also, he was in medical school at a different time.
Yeah.
So there was a time. So here's where I'm just going to give a little history. There was a time in the history of the United States, which is where we're sitting, where breech deliveries were common. Right. Midwives did them at home. Doctors did them in hospitals. It was just another part of your training. Mm-hmm. The same way you learned how to do maneuvers to deliver a vertex baby, or to manage a shoulder dystocia, or to manage a hemorrhage, you learned the variation on normal. Breech delivery is a variation on normal. Right. It is not abnormal pathology. Right. So they stopped teaching it. So why did they stop teaching it? Well, I actually did a thesis on it when I was in midwifery school, like a capstone sort of project, where what happened was there was a study that came out that scared everyone about breech birth. And it said that, the risk of losing a mother or losing a baby is much higher. The risk of pelvic floor injury is higher. And basically the risk of brain damage to the baby is very high. So they stopped teaching it. And they were like, nope. Too much liability. We're not interested. Medical school stopped teaching it essentially, but a handful of doctors who had the skill were willing to train other residents. Right. So there are sprinkles of doctors around who are just like, we do breech, like Breech Without Borders. The doctors who teach that are skilled and professional in actually teaching midwives how to do breech births. Right. Because once in a while, as a community midwife, you could be having a normal baby thinking that you're having a vertex, and all of a sudden a butt presents, and you better have some skills. Now, that's not my specialty. I will never go out there and say, as a community birth midwife, like, come to me for all your breeches. No, it's not even within the protocol of what I'm allowed to do here in California. In other states, midwives can do breeches and twins, not in California.
Has it changed on that? Because I feel like
not in California. Not no, so midwives you still can't, and doctors, it really depends on your hospital.
Right. I remember Dr. Crane mentioning that to me when my first breeches, how they had taken it out of the ACOG.
Correct.
So he says, like, any doctors that were trained from like 2000 to 2015 or what, it changed since then.
They just don't.
But they just don't even know.
They just don't know. So we took something that was a variation on normal, and the study scared people. And then insurance companies were like, yeah, we're not paying for that. Right. You have if you're going to do a breech vaginal birth, and you're liable, and then liability insurance. So it became a mess. But then, as happens with research, someone went through the research and was like, wait a minute, this research is flawed. Surprise, the research is flawed. And the reason the research was flawed was that they actually did not include only candidates who were safe candidates for a breech delivery in the study. Right. So the study included people who had never had prenatal care in their lives, would show up at hospitals and be like, surprise, never seen a midwife or a doctor, and oops, the baby's breech. People who had diabetes, people who had gross underlying conditions that made them not even a candidate really for vaginal birth, never mind. And then people showing up to facilities where there was no one trained. So what do you think's is going to happen if you
be.
show up to a facility where no one is trained to catch a breech baby? You're going to have bad outcomes, because even in your case, the doctors were like,
Right.
I am not touching that.
Right.
Thank God your baby came out fast, because God forbid that could have been a statistic as part of that study.
And Dr. Crane told me because of that study, most women they won't even attempt it if they know their baby's breech.
Correct.
They're too scared.
Correct.
He's like, I can't, I'm so happy to have this opportunity.
Absolutely.
But he's like, but if you're going to have multiple births, this is the way safer way.
And there was another doctor in one of the local hospitals who had done it for his whole life and was teaching and had a whole resident program. They got rid of him. Just close to retirement, he was asked, not
too many
they were
risky
just
things?
giving him
According to them.
Yeah, he was just a cowboy doing breech deliveries at our hospital. We don't want that. We don't want a cowboy over here.
Right.
So the study was a detriment. And when you went back and you looked at the group that was studied, it was flawed. So then they came back and they were like, sorry, we kind of made a mistake. Breech birth is a variation on normal, and vaginal breech birth is safe if parameters.
Right, everything lines up there.
It's either a frank breech or it's a complete breech.
Right.
So butt down, not foot down.
Right.
Preferably it's the mom's second baby, not the first, so that we know that her body has had a vaginal birth before and the baby's able to come down the pelvis. They use the word adequate pelvis, which I think is such a terrible, one of those horrible obstetrical words that we need to get rid of. But we know, like, the pelvis has proven itself, right? We know that there's no underlying conditions. It's not a person with uncontrolled gestational diabetes who is going to, have a 12-pound baby because of the amount of sugar that's going into, wild insulin levels in that baby's body. And most importantly, the facility where the person is delivering has adequate NICU and post care for the baby, because a lot of these women delivered, then something was wrong with the baby and there was no step-up unit, so the babies would die. Yeah. So that added to the statistic of an unsafe vaginal breech delivery, which actually was about the institution, not so much about the vaginal breech.
Right.
And lastly, a doctor who's been trained in doing breech deliveries with simulation. So with simulators. And they have these models. There's actually, I think, a picture of me on my Instagram of practicing on a model with maneuvers to do for a breech delivery. Not that I'm planning on doing one. No, but if it ever happens where a baby we thought was vertex, at least I have some skills and some understanding of what happens when the whole body comes out and then you're working with a head that has to come out. Very different than when the head comes out and then the shoulders and the body, slips out. So that study was flawed, and it unfortunately messed up a whole cohort of doctors.
Right, because it got
will not touch it with a 10-foot pole. There's so much about passing the buck. Honestly, the place where medicine meets litigation is a very ugly, ugly, ugly place. Yeah. And I had a transfer of care to a hospital from a home birth. We managed the hemorrhage, but the woman needed more care. And the ambulance took her to a local hospital, and the emergency room physician would not touch the woman
because she was at home.
Baby. No, she said, I just do not do pregnancy, delivery, anything L&D related. I don't touch. And I was like, but you're the only doctor here. She's like, I'm sorry, we've paged the obstetrician. I was like, well, how far out is the obstetrician? 20 minutes. And I said, but she's bleeding. She goes, grab the gloves. You're the primary care provider right now. Oh, so in a United States hospital,
that's shocking.
In an emergency room where, God bless those emergency room nurses who had protocols, who knew, like, hook up this, hook up that, hook up this, hook up that. But she was like, you try to do what, a doctor would have done if they were here, or what you want me to do. But I can't touch. And she literally...
Because she was scared of being sued,
and she was lovely. It was just part of their protocol, which is based on...
scared of being sued.
It's based on liability.
I did once... I remember having this conversation with another OB that we're friendly with at Shaw. And he had brought his friend, that's also an OB. And we were talking and how this about different births. And he had been at one of my sister's births and whatever. And his friend was saying how he had this crazy birth and the mother insisted on going natural and it was a big baby and basically the baby was getting stuck on the way out. And he says, as the baby's getting stuck, my whole life flashed before me because he thought like maybe either the mother or the baby, something was going to happen, he thought. In the end, they were fine. With a bit of like, either they had to cut her or whatever it was, but But so I was like, oh, that's so nice that like he was so like in tune to the mother and the baby. And then he was like, he thought like he was going to lose his license. Right. And I was just like, oh, I can't believe that was like his punchline. I was so offended. I was like, what? I'm like, you thought because you're licensed, but which I totally do understand.
Yeah. No, those are some terrifying moments in obstetrics, really. And thank God this woman, like, the hemorrhage was managed at home, but she continued to bleed when we went there. And I needed a doctor. I had transferred her for a doctor. Purposely. Yeah. And they were lovely. And the emergency room doctor literally was like, you're doing great to me. And I was like, I didn't come here for this. Is this a bad dream? Like, this is a really bad dream. And God bless the doctor who came in. He was a Crane type, sort of the same age, positive. Very calm, very positive. Like, and he was like, come, let me show you what and he taught me some skills that day.
Incredible.
Which was incredible. But the system of like a doctor telling a midwife, you're the primary provider, because I'm not allowed to touch the client, even though I'm a doctor. So I'm going to call a doctor who's 20 minutes away.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. Mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So just for me, what it taught me is as much as possible when we transfer by hospital to go to a big facility, not to a community hospital, because many times they're not staffed adequately. Right. But then you got to mitigate who's closer.
Right.
So it's
how emergency it is.
Like what if you need units of blood, then you got to go to where you got to go and wait for the laborist. But at least the nurses did what they had to do. So it was just one of those days. So now we got to start thinking about this, which we touched on it earlier, is why do your babies come out breech? What's Dr. Crane's philosophy? He
hasn't had a philosophy. He said originally he thought it was a fluke, and then he was like, it's not a fluke. But I never got to a reason as to why I've had breached babies. Because it's pretty rare.
So
breech,
rare.
Right? It's like a very small percent.
It's like 2 to 3%.
Yeah, it's very, and most of mine are, which is so strange.
And you touched earlier, because I want my listeners to hear about some of the things that you did. So, Pessa, why don't you tell me what you did, and then I'll explain it. What did you do to help your baby turn, and how many weeks was it?
So I did this with only one child, because it was a lot that I did. And when Dr. Crane told me when I was breached with my fourth, that he will happily deliver breached as long as everything lines up. I said, you just give me the word. I'm not doing anything if I have to.
Yeah. Well, it's time consuming. Yeah. It's stressful, and it
was
expensive.
A lot. Oh, I also did the Hypno Babies soundtrack a number of times. They have like a breached to turn your baby.
Okay, so hypnosis.
Yeah. So I did the hypnosis.
Great.
I did headstands. Like I would pile up pillows against the couch and like kind of almost lay upside down.
To
like 20 minutes a night. Yeah.
Yep.
I did hot and cold packs. They say you put heat packs at the bottom and cold on the top because the baby will gravitate to the heat.
Towards the heat, which is the theory behind moxibustion too.
Right.
Is that it heats up the chakras at the bottom of the feet of the baby toe. So it helps the baby come down because the baby goes towards the heat.
It's Chinese, and it's like these kind of almost incense sticks that you burn by your pinky toes.
Exactly. I forget what the herb is.
I think I did it for like 10 days.
I'll look it up. Yeah, the herb is...
Had me by it for like 10 days worth.
Mugwort? I don't remember. I'll look it up.
I think like in short it's Moxie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and acupuncture. And then Dr. Berlin he's actually, I think he's pretty big on breached as well as helping. So he was one of the first people that came up when my baby was breached in Los Angeles to go to Dr. Berlin. So I did, it's like the Webster technique
to help
where they do like a pelvic chiropractic I guess
deep massage.
Okay. It's basically making more space for the baby to be able to move.
Exactly.
So it's like an hour massage. It's pretty hectic.
It's intense.
It's intense.
Yeah. And he's not a little guy.
So yeah, so he gets really in.
Yeah.
So I did like 6 or 7 of those.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, which is time consuming, expensive, and stressful.
Yeah.
Because you're going in expecting to get an outcome. Yeah. So it's not like I'm just going for acupuncture to to calm me down.
It wasn't relaxing.
Feel better. It wasn't relaxing because you want an outcome.
But I did I wanted to do anything I could in my hands to turn my baby.
Yeah.
What else did I do?
The version.
I never ended up doing the version.
Yeah, but the external cephalic version is an option for some people.
Yeah. Yeah, I have been with a sister-in-law of mine to her. She did it, and it was not successful. They tried like 4 times. And when I saw her, I I actually said to my husband, I said, thank God I never did that.
It
was so painful. Intense. It was so intense. And watching the doctor get on that stomach and like try to force at least.
The baby from the outside.
From the outside, physically from the outside.
Yeah.
And after you've relaxed all the muscle around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was so painful for her.
And I've had moms have vaginal births a few days after having the ECV and been like, I was so bruised up from the ECV that labor sucked even more because my abdominal muscles
like Charlie wrecked.
Yeah, exactly. They were just wrecked.
It looked awful. I just couldn't. I was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful I never went ahead with it. Besides for the fact that my daughter had her cord around her neck 5 times, which was such a miracle in itself. I mean, just deciding not to do it. But when I came to my next breech baby, in between I had not breech, but when I came to my next one, I just told Dr. Crane, I'm like, I will do this if you're telling me it's my only option to have a natural birth.
Right.
But if you're willing to do a natural breech delivery, I'm not doing it. Like,
it's the same body that knows that you are prone to breech has made you capable of birthing breech.
Right.
And clearly having babies that are a perfect size for you. Right. I always tell women you'll have the baby that's the right size for you. Yeah.
Right. So.
Unless, something else is going on. But what would you say to that woman who is 34 weeks pregnant and has found out that her baby is breech?
I mean, I would, if I've never had a breech before, I would definitely try. I would go, Dr. Berlin was wonderful. I think he has a lot to offer for breech babies. It didn't work for me, but I do know many people that it worked for.
For sure.
So I would try, and I would definitely find a doctor. I would go to Dr. Crane. He really has so much insight and so much experience. So, he's delivered people my age. Yeah. I remember my first baby there sitting in the waiting room with another lady similar to me, and she said, yeah, Dr. Crane delivered me.
He's on to probably the third generation of
which is amazing.
People. Is he training students to do it?
I don't know.
I don't know what his hospital would even allow him to do.
Well, and he's only at Cedars now.
On so many levels. Their hands are tied on so many levels. Yeah. Pessa, you are a warrior. You are incredible, magical, sparkly unicorn of mamas. And I've seen you with your babies and raise your babies. And I've spent time at your home with your family. I think you are incredible.
Thank you.
I'm so inspired by you. And I'm so honored to have you as my guest. And as we say, may your baby be born at an auspicious time.
Amen. Amen.
And with only goodness and beauty ahead.
Amen. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to getting a pic of the new baby.
Yes, I can't wait.
Thanks for being my guest.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. Such an honor.
Pleasure. The honor is mine. Thanks for listening to the Mamatoosa podcast on the Industry Plant Podcast Network. Mamatoosa is hosted by me, Atoosa Benji, and produced by Josh Stretton Carlson. Our theme music is composed by Mary Lalazarian. If you enjoyed the podcast, please consider leaving us a review and subscribing. See you next Tuesday.